All right, we are live. Super Bowl 59 preview. Chiefs, Eagles. Chiefs are favored by 1.5 points. The game will take place tonight. We are recording this a couple of hours before the start of Super Bowl 59. And I really think this is a matchup of the two best teams in the NFL. Now, I know there's a lot that goes into that. Obviously, health is, of course, a big one. And the Lions were a really, really good team all year, but so were the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles are a borderline juggernaut at this point. Actually, I don't think it's even borderline. They've lost one game since the bye week, and in that game, Jalen Hurts went out early, and they lost 36-33, and that was to the Washington Commanders back in Week 16, and as we know, they got their revenge, as they would play them in the NFC Championship game and win 55-23. So the Eagles are clicking on all cylinders. They've lost one game since the start of October, and like we said, Jalen Hurts left that game early, and I am very, very much looking forward to this game. So I am eager to see, or I'm eager to hear who you guys have winning this game. We have a comment from Larry. Have a wonderful day. Fly, Eagles, fly. I will say this. I had a flight this morning, and I saw a lot of birds. A lot of people wearing birds jerseys. A lot of people wearing Chiefs jerseys. I will say that somebody actually messaged me this week that whenever I see a birds jersey in public, I do give a quick "Go Birds," and a couple people responded to me when I said "Go Birds" today. So shout out those people that responded with "Go Birds." But guys, when you look at this matchup between the Chiefs and Eagles, I really think that this is a strength on strength in a lot of areas, and I think you look at the trenches on both sides of the ball for both teams, and they each team fares well. Obviously, the Eagles' offensive line is one of the best in football. They are not only a very good unit, they're a very beefy unit, and I think whenever you look at how a team is constructed, that you should really look at what the Philadelphia Eagles have done over the past couple of years, and look at Howie Roseman and try to emulate that as much as you can. And the Chiefs' defensive line is also very good, and that's going to be a Goliath versus Goliath type battle, although I do think that the Eagles' offensive line is better than the Chiefs' defensive line relative to, each unit's strength. Hurts being Eagles fan says Jalen Hurts will prove the doubters wrong. Appreciate the super chat, 10th super chat on his streams. Appreciate it. And when you look at the Chiefs' offensive line, I'm going to be honest. The Eagles' defensive line is obviously very good. It's led by second-year player Jalen Carter. But I also think the Chiefs' offensive line, I would say in 3 out of the 5, I like Joe Tooney at left tackle. I really like Creed. I really like Trey Smith. Jawan Taylor's good. He's fine. Mike Caliendo at left guard could be a problem. That could, I don't want to say have a Super Bowl 55 type impact where Jalen Carter is in the backfield every single play, because in the worst case, Creed Humphrey would they would start to double team Jalen Carter, and the Chiefs would not let it get to that, because at the end of the day, what has to be remembered is Andy Reid is an offensive line coach first, and that's honestly one of the biggest things to remember when discussing football is if you can't protect, it's not an exaggeration to say that nothing else matters. It doesn't matter if you have Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill like the Chiefs used to have. It does not matter. You have to be able to protect up front. And when you look at the Eagles' defensive line, whether it's Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Moro Ajomo, who has been a really good contributor since being drafted in the 7th round last year, the Eagles have a lot of good players. That's, of course, not including Josh Sweat or Zach Bond, who was top 5 in Defensive Player of the Year voting. I know some Birds fans were a little upset with that. But I think the both offensive lines match up, or they should be favored in terms of how the trenches go. And James, appreciate becoming a next level analyst. Appreciate it. But when you look at this game, and when you look at how each team has won so far, mainly the Birds here, by the way, Philadelphia has created 10 turnovers in 3 games. And the timely turnovers they created against the Rams, especially with the one Kyron Williams fumble, was critical to them winning. I mean, I don't think the Packers were even close to being on the same level as the Eagles were in that game. Philly, in reality, should have won that game by 19 points. Saquon, of course, took the knee at the end. The 22-10 final all the way back in the wild card round, I didn't think was indicative of how that game was played. And then they absolutely throttled the Washington Commanders. They had over 450 yards of offense. They forced 4 turnovers, they had multiple fumbles, and they took advantage when they needed to. And the Chiefs against the Texans sacked CJ Stroud 8 times, and it was a dominant game from George Karlaftis, as George Karlaftis within that game had 3 sacks, at the game of his life, had 8 pressures, or I wouldn't say had 8 pressures. I know Chris Jones was impacting the play every single snap like he does, but like I said, I think this is a true Goliath versus Goliath in the trenches. Now, where I think the matchups favor the Eagles is when you look at the secondary. I am obviously a big fan of Quinyon Mitchell, of Cooper DeJean, of Darius Slay, CJ Deuce, Reed Blankenship, everybody they have back there. Even Avonte Maddox as a fourth corner, as a rotational corner, I like him. And when you look at the Chiefs receivers, whether it's Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, DeAndre Hopkins, of course, at this stage in his career, I think the Eagles secondary is more equipped to handle that than I do with the Chiefs secondary outside of Trent McDuffie. Of course, after Trent McDuffie, you're going to have Joshua Williams, you're going to have Chamari Conner, you're going to have Jalen Watson. Somebody's going to have to step up, and I think this is a prime Devontae Smith game for him to be able to step up and have a big day. Now, it has been a pretty quiet postseason for A.J. Brown. A.J. was, of course, outside of the Washington game, by the way, I meant more so the first 2 games, as he had 3 catches for 24 yards within the first game. First 2 games between the Packers and Rams. But A.J. Brown is going to need to step up the way he did 2 years ago against the Chiefs. And within that game, I don't know if some people remember this. I don't know. I know Birds fans obviously remember this. Daniel, who just became who re-upped his membership. Appreciate it, by the way. I know Daniel remembers this as a Birds fan, that AJ had a big touchdown over Trent McDuffie early in the game. And the Eagles are going to need that type of contribution. And I will say, by the way, that Dallas Goedert did not have the best regular season, all things considered, at least relative to the Dallas Goedert that we know he can be. Not a Dallas Goedert shot, more of just we know he can be this player, and he was not the player that he can be throughout the course of the regular season. He wasn't bad, but just he's really stepped up in the postseason. And he's had at least 45 yards in every game. He had an 85-yard game against Washington in the NFC Championship game. And the big thing for the Birds in this game is if they are going to beat the Chiefs, they are going to have guys other than Saquon Barkley step up. And if I am Steve Spagnuolo, which I have no doubt that Spags is going to be in his bag, no rhyme intended there. There's no doubt Spags is going to be in his bag in this game. And Jason Kelce, I listened to a lot of what he had to say, just in terms of pass protections and what Spags likes to do and just everything within that nature. What Jason Kelce said that Spags really likes to do is just consistently mix pressure packages. You might have one play where you have 3 guys come from the right side, have the next play look the exact same formation, exact same pre-snap look. You're going to have 2 guys drop, you're only going to rush 3, drop 8. Or there's something in that nature, just to give you an example. And if I'm Steve Spagnuolo, I am doing everything I possibly can to take Saquon Barkley out of the game. Now, I know that's a very bold take. I know that's a very big, very well advanced, or that's a very advanced strategy there. Especially with Saquon, who ran for over 2,000 yards this year. But Saquon is working on 3 straight 115-plus rushing yard games in the postseason. And it's also worth noting that the Chiefs' rushing defense in the postseason has really, really stepped up. There were a couple of statistics that went back a couple of seasons, and a lot of the times, guys, whatever their rushing yards line was, players went under more often than not against the Chiefs in the postseason. And If I'm Steve Spagnuolo, I am doing everything I can to take the ball out of Saquon Barkley's hands and forcing Jalen Hurts to beat us. Now, I will say this regarding this game. I think there's a bit of a misconception about the Kansas City Chiefs at times, where some people legitimately think that they are like not that good of a team because they haven't had the Patrick Mahomes, 400 yards, 4 passing touchdown games. And then people love bringing up the refs about the Chiefs, which is ridiculous. I mean, they're 15-2. They're going for their 3rd straight Super Bowl for a reason. But I will say this. I do think the Eagles from top to bottom in this game are a more talented roster. I'm curious to see where you guys stand on that, but I do think the Eagles have a more talented overall roster. Let's see. It hurts to be an Eagles fan since no Sod Father or Kadarius Toney. And then Garf says, off-topic thoughts on the final staff, Cohen. I will get to that in a minute, Garf, I promise. But to give you a quick answer, I really like it. I really like it, and I especially like Grant. I think it's Udinska is how to pronounce the last name. Really like that. The Jags are going to be a problem moving forward. I firmly believe that. I really like what they're doing. Just, fix a couple things. They're going to be all right. But I am going to post a poll, and I am going to see where you guys stand on this. And James Cook had a solid day. I wouldn't say it was completely out of this world. He did have a good day, but it was out of the past 10 games. James Cook and I think maybe one other player were the only guys to go over the rushing yards, the standard, the line that Vegas had set for them. So whatever they were expected to, it was 8 out of 10 guys in the postseason went under. And James Cook did have a good game. He had over 120 yards total offense. He of course had 2 touchdowns. But James Cook, again, was a bit of an outlier relative to the Chiefs' postseason rushing defense. So I want to see where you guys stand on this and who you guys have winning this game, because like I said, I think the Eagles have a more talented roster. I really do, and I think Howie Roseman has done a phenomenal job in terms of building this. But who's winning the game? Very simple. Who is winning this game? The Space Jam James Cook touchdown was nice. The one where the reaching in the 3rd quarter, that was pretty. By the way, we are going to be going live after the game tonight. So if you are enjoying this, definitely tune in after the game, because like I said, I'm very much looking forward to this game, obviously, and I can't wait to discuss, whether we have a new Super Bowl champion or whether we have, for the first time in NFL history, a three-peat. Now, with the Chiefs, we just spent all that time discussing the Eagles. The Kansas City Chiefs, we discussed this last week, or a couple weeks ago with the Bills. The biggest thing with the Chiefs is they, to me, they're like a team that we've never seen, at least to this level, that the way the Chiefs do this. The Chiefs are, to me, just the ultimate counter fighter. Like we discussed this, where they basically just wait for somebody to overextend, and when they overextend and they let out, they force force a ball, or they force whatever, they fumble a football, whatever. Whenever they really overextend and try and force something, they make a mistake. The Chiefs are right there every time, and just boom, every time. They just absolutely they never fail to capitalize on mistakes, and we see that with the Chiefs every single year. It's frustrating to play knowing that pressure is there, and obviously the 4th down play where Josh Allen did not get the 1st down was pretty controversial, but in typical Chiefs fashion, they immediately went 59 yards in 5 plays to go score and to make it to go take the lead. They went from 22-21 to up 29-22. And the Bills went 0 for 2 in 2-point conversion in this game. The Chiefs went 1 for 1. It is, I've never seen a team counter punch, like if it was a boxing match. I've never seen a team counter the way the Chiefs do after a boxer just whiffs. And that is what I think is the best way to describe the Kansas City Chiefs, is they do not make mistakes. And that's also the sign of a championship winning team, is they went the final 7 games of the regular season without an offensive turnover. They had 1 turnover against the Bills in the conference championship game. I mean, this team has 1 turnover since week 12. The Chiefs don't make mistakes. They capitalize like hell whenever you make mistakes. And since week 12, this team has a plus 10 turnover margin. Now, for my personal pick in terms of who I think is going to win this game, I think the Eagles have a more talented roster all around. I really do. I think the Eagles offense is phenomenal. I think the defense is phenomenal. But I am not betting against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs when it comes hell or high water. And I tweeted this earlier today. If you follow me on Twitter, then you know this. Then you saw that I tweeted Chiefs 28, Eagles 24. But I do think the Chiefs are going to win. I think this is going to be one hell of a game. And it's one that I am really, really looking forward to. And like I said, I think Chiefs are going to win 28-24. All right. Let's see here. Max, appreciate the super chat. He says, I feel like there's going to be 0 turnovers today. So, Max, what I would say to that is I don't want to say there's going to be none for all of 60 minutes because there's probably going to be, roughly 70 plays each side, 140 plays, roughly. There's a lot that can go wrong at the snap of a finger. And I think there's going to be a lot of cautious, just cautiously aggressive. There's going to be, unless there's like a 2nd and 1 on the 40-yard line where it's a clear opportunity to take a deep shot, I don't think there's going to be many big plays. I actually think this game is going to be quite the opposite of what it was 2 years ago when it was 38-35, when there was 70-plus total points scored. I think it's going to be quite the opposite of that. I think Spagnuolo and Fangio are going to keep both teams under, at least under, well, I said 28-24 is the final, is my prediction, but which is a far cry from 38-35. But I think it's going to be a really good game. I also think it's very much going to be a who makes the first mistake. There's going to be a lot of the sticking the neck out, and like I said, like when you fight, they're gonna be doing all. I'm trying to think how to word this here. It's a cat and mouse game. That's what I'm looking for. There's going to be a lot of cat and mouse games between the coordinators. And what I think is cool about the Super Bowl is immediately after the Super Bowl, you'll see a couple days later, you'll see other YouTube channels come out with, they'll come out with what happened within the game, within the All-22 and exactly within the chess matches. And that's honestly why I love the Super Bowl. Obviously, aside from it being for the Lombardi Trophy and who's going to win the championship for that particular season, but just the coverage that you see on a single game that hundreds of millions of people were watching. So I think the Chiefs are going to win 28-24, but that is where I stand on that, and I agree. Whoever makes the first mistake could be on their heels quick. Garf says, appreciate Super Chat. What you're describing in Counter Fighter is a team that is coached to an immaculate level. Yeah, they are. You're not going for a three-peat with average coaching. That's the reality. Whether it's Andy Reid, whether it's Steve Spagnuolo, whoever, you don't accidentally stumble into the opportunity for a three-peat. You don't accidentally stumble into that. So you're 100% correct. All right, Class and Gamer, appreciate it. Do you truly believe Nick Sirianni is a good coach or more of a product from elite roster construction and great coordinators? I think he's a good coach. Yes, I do. I do. He is, I want to say he's 48-20 lifetime as a coach, and is 5-3 in the postseason. I'm pretty sure is what it is off the top of my head. I saw a couple of stats regarding this, and I think the biggest thing is even with how talented the Eagles roster is, you don't luck into winning over 70% of your games the way that Nick Sirianni has. And here's the stat. Sirianni has the third highest winning percentage by a coach in the modern era, minimum 50 games, trailing only John Madden and George Allen. I think Nick Sirianni gets a little, the hate was justified whenever he would do the Nick Sirianni things, and whenever he would get up to the mic and basically scream into the mic, if everybody could do it, everybody would do it, which puts an extreme target on your back. And I'm not a fan of head coaches putting targets on your team's back. Now, if a player does it, and basically if a corner says, try me, Jamar Chase can't score on me and try me, that's more of a player speaking confidence in themselves. But if a coach does it, I'm not a fan of that. But whenever you are trailing only John Madden, whenever you're in a statistic with John Madden, you don't accidentally stumble into that. So Nick Sirianni is a good coach, yes. All right. A sane Sirianni take? Yes. No, I think I try to be sane with the takes. I think I do a decent job of being sane and trying to back up takes. But no, I think Sirianni's a good coach, and I think there's at times I just think it's a little ridiculous with the narrative of Nick Sirianni of oh well they could just go get whoever. Like they could bring in, let me think of somebody here that Birds fans would just not like. For reference, whether it was either coordinator last year, whether it was Brian Johnson or Sean Desai, they could bring them in as a head coach and they'd have the same success. No, it doesn't work like that. It's not that simple. All right. Garf, you're 100% right. Yes. Like, is Sirianni's job easier than other coaches? Yes. Like D'Amico Ryans, for example. Yes. Excuse me. Sorry. The talent the Eagles have is top 2 or 3 in the NFL. But you still have to make plays. You still have to coach. You still have to do everything. So I just think at times that Sirianni's a little, and honestly, Twitter is like this at times with Dan Campbell. I'm not Twitter. What Twitter will basically say that Dan Campbell is like a glorified locker room leader and basically say that Ben Johnson did everything and Aaron Glenn just, made chicken salad out of just not an NFL roster. Defensively, and it's disrespectful to the coaches. It is disrespectful to the coaches. All right. I think it's a lot of, let's see here. Love from Germany, appreciate it. Glad you're enjoying, and that's always very humbling. All right. Do you think Philly will regress next year? That's hard to say because we don't know anything that could happen this offseason. It's going to be hard, even for the Chiefs next year. It's going to be hard to repeat a 15-2 record. So the Eagles finished 7th in offensive points per game this year, 2nd in defensive points per game, had a 160-point differential, 14-3 record. They're probably going to regress a little bit. But even if you go 12-5 and you finish 10th in points per game and 5th in defensive points allowed per game, that in theory is a regression from this year. They're probably going to regress a little bit, yes. Record-wise. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they go to the Super Bowl next year, as they are one of the best teams in the league for a reason. All right, Ivan, appreciate the super chat, and he says, Devontae choosing his friends over actually competing. First, I felt bad for what the Raiders did to him, but now he deserves it. Yeah, the Devontae Adams situation was always pretty wild. Not one I would have done if I were in the NFL. And my whole thing with Devontae, even when he wanted to be traded to the Raiders a couple of years ago, was you are going to a division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. And I don't really care what the opinion on Justin Herbert is right now, especially after the 4-interception playoff game. Justin Herbert, even at that time, was better than Derek Carr. The Broncos were not where they are now, and they were still in that midst of 6-7 straight seasons of losing records or whatever. I think it might have been 8 seasons, 7 seasons, whatever. They were going through their own thing. But they did have the hype of Russell Wilson and the hype of bringing him in, potential Hall of Fame quarterback. It was just, I never understood that. I never understood the desire. Oh, we played at Fresno State. Obviously, I understand that. It's not like I don't understand that specific part, but Derek Carr hasn't been a good quarterback in nearly a decade. So, yeah, no, I get where you're coming from, Ivan. I do. All right. What do you think about the Debo trade thing? I would be pretty surprised if he's not dealt this offseason. It makes a lot of sense for both sides. Debo his contract isn't good. They selected Ricky Pearsall in the first round last year for a reason. And let me think how to word this. With the amount of touches and toll that the carries and everything that's had on Debo's body over the course of his career, he's not a typical 29-year-old receiver. He's not a guy that can probably have 3 or 4 more years like a lot of guys have whenever, they're 29 years old. Debo is an old 29, which is not good. So Debo, I don't think they're going to get a lot for him. I really don't. Paul Rene, Super Bowl, is that some macro dish? Definitely pay attention to the macros. I love a good chicken and diced potatoes. Maybe ground beef and diced potatoes. Definitely pay attention, though. How long until a Chief rebuild? I have no idea. Yeah, right until after Patrick Mahomes retires, so years, decade maybe. Let's see here. You are saying the Cowboys have no talent. LMAO. I'm not sure. I haven't even mentioned the Cowboys, so I'm not sure how that even comes up. Not sure where that one comes from. All right. Let's see. Garf, appreciate it. Have you seen Quinnen Williams mad about Aaron Rodgers gone? I have not. Let me take a look at this. Wait, hopefully this was on Twitter. I'm going to take a look now. Let's see here. Let's keep it rolling. I will look into that as this goes on. Cooperative Gamer says, hey, football analysis. What's up, man? How we doing? Hopefully everybody is having a good Super Bowl Sunday. Game starts in a little over an hour, guys. It's crazy how fast Super Bowl Sunday goes. Okay, so Quinnen Williams tweeted a thumbs down emoji regarding Aaron Rodgers. There's over 300 replies. The top reply is tough look Q, not to be this guy, but if you guys won more last year, you wouldn't have to worry. Build it the right way. You guys aren't making it all the way with a 42-year-old quarterback. It's not wrong, as the top reply. Somebody tweeted, let your GM and head coach do their job. This ain't it. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Like, I get where Quinnen Williams is coming from. He's going to be 28 and has never made the postseason. And that was Aaron Rodgers was by far the best quarterback that they've had in the Quinnen Williams era, because Sam Darnold was not the Sam Darnold that we saw this year. And then the Zach Wilson experience, and then Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian and Chris Trevler and Joe Flacco. So I understand Quinnen Williams being a little upset. I really do. And I understand where he is coming from in that situation. Okay, I got you, guy, by the way, in terms of the Cowboys comment, by the way. I was just taken back by that, because I feel like I think the Cowboys are, well, the Cowboys are a different situation, but anyway. Do you think Saquon is going to regress next year? He's 28 years old, coming off 2,000 yards. So here's the problem is, like, I think Saquon will regress next year because I don't think he's going to have back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons. So yes, I think he will regress, but I also think that Jamar Chase will regress as well. But that's, if it's a peak year in your career, I mean, they're both, Jamar and Saquon regress, are still Hall of Fame caliber players. So, in theory, if you want to go by a statistical regression, then yes. Then I think they will both regress, personally. All right, did I make a Super Bowl pick? Yes. Chiefs, 28. Eagles, 24. Saquon going for 3K. Let's see here. The Browns might have to relocate from Cleveland. That would be a tough one there. Let's see here. Who do you think is a likely quarterback candidate for the Jets? It's probably, I don't know, man. I really don't know. I like the decision, though, to move on from Aaron Rodgers, and here's why. Aaron Glenn is a big culture guy. He is very much similar to Dan Campbell in the sense of, you know, we want to be a tough team. We want to be a gritty team. And Aaron Rodgers is going to do what Aaron Rodgers wants, regardless. And that wouldn't be good for the culture. And if Aaron Rodgers is coming in, dictating policy the way that he does, I get the decision to move on from Aaron Rodgers. I do. Now, in terms of what they're going to do, it's going to have to be a transition year, unfortunately, for guys that are in their primes, like Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Quinnen Williams, Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson. Hopefully he's doing okay. Hopefully he's doing okay coming off the injury. But it's a tough, it's just they're in a tough situation. But, all right. How long is the Lions Super Bowl window open for? At least the next, minimum, by the way, at least the next 2 years. Probably longer. There's going to be a point where they have contracts to discuss and everything, and that's, there's going to be a point where it's going to be, okay, we have to pay Hutch, we have to pay JMO, we have to pay Branch Laporta, who is the other two? Branch Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, and then Jack Campbell. That's a couple years away. But the Lions Super Bowl window, at least 2 more years, at least for sure. And then even that, it's not like they're going to go from Super Bowl contenders to just 3-14. So I would say the Super Bowl window is actually open for probably the next 4 or 5 years if they stay healthy. All right, because anything can happen in the NFC. Max, appreciate the super chat. If injuries were not a thing, who do you think would be playing today? I would have had a hard time seeing a healthy Detroit Lions team not go, personally. That's just me. I would say Lions Chiefs. That was my Super Bowl pick on... I actually tweeted it out every year. I tweet out an hour before the opening kickoff on Thursday night, and I thought it was going to be Chiefs-Lions 3-peat. But I think the injuries off, Lions go all the way. Or they're in the Super Bowl. I still think the Chiefs win. All right. Top 5 childhood favorite players. All right. Oh, let's see here. Adrian Peterson, Percy Harvin. Those are 2. Those are 2. Trying to think of that era where I was just like, man, like those are my 2 guys from the Vikings though, for sure. I also Ed Reed was a big Ed Reed guy. Loved Ed Reed. That would be 3. Well, that would be like one of the top 5. I always loved Ed Reed. Who else would be up there? Try to see, like, just thinking of guys that were around. Because there's so many guys that I'm thinking of right now. I'd probably say Peyton would be up there. Peyton would definitely be up there. Because I always wanted him to catch Tom, rings-wise. I always wanted that to happen. Unfortunately, it didn't. So Peyton would definitely be up there. But those 4 and then 5 would probably be... I wasn't a big Tom guy. I wasn't really a big Tom guy until the end, where it was like... After Tom won, like, the 4th ring and tied Joe Montana, and then it was like, okay, like, we have a GOAT, like GOAT here, and then went 5, and then 6, and then... I didn't really become a Tom guy until after that. Until after the 4th one. Oh, Richard Sherman would definitely be up there, by the way. Big Richard Sherman guy. Also love Luke Kuechly. Although I was kind of like 15, 16, 17 years old, so it's a little beyond childhood for sure, but those 2 are my guys. I was really disappointed that Luke Kuechly was not a first ballot Hall of Famer because he should have been. He definitely should have been. But what are you going to do? All right, let me call this. Chiefs have the ball 24-7, up 24-17, 5 minutes left. Cooper DeJean gets a pick 6, followed by a Chiefs punt and Jake Elliott 50-plus yard game winner. That would be... I respect the called shot, man. If there was a Cooper DeJean pick 6, that would... If you could have that specific, that would be quite the payday. If you place like $5 on Cooper DeJean anytime defensive touchdown, that'd probably pay a lot. But that's quite the bold prediction. Quite the specific prediction. Next year's Hall of Fame class is, I know there's a lot of, next year's Hall of Fame class, there's a lot of, let me look it up here, 2026 first time. There's a lot of first time eligible guys for the Hall of Fame class. Let's see if I can pull it up. I know Schefter tweeted it out a couple days ago, but there's a lot of guys. And I was just disappointed with the fact that, like I said, that Luke Kuechly didn't get in. Okay, so first time eligible next year. Larry Fitzgerald, Drew Brees, both in for sure. Jason Witten, Frank Gore should both be in. First ballot. Phillip Rivers, I think he should be, but there's going to be people that are going to say like, oh, well, he shouldn't because, he was never a top 2 guy. That's going to be a discussion to be had. But I think Phillip Rivers should be a Hall of Famer. Luke Kuechly should definitely get in next year for sure. Vinatieri should definitely get in. But it's should be 6 guys next year no matter how you slice it. Because that is Fitzgerald, Drew Brees, Jason Witten, Frank Gore should all undoubtedly be first ballot Hall of Famers. But you're one of my favorite YouTubers, you and That's Good Sports. Appreciate it. Brandon's my guy. I do enjoy BP, Brandon Pernos, appreciate it. He'll be on the channel for the Broncos team preview next year. But not trying to be disrespectful, but how does Alex Smith have a chance to make the Hall of Fame? It may be a dumb question. I don't think it's a dumb question. I don't think Alex Smith should be a Hall of Famer, personally, at all. No offense to Alex Smith, but that's just me. Let's see here. I wish they had a set number for the Hall of Fame class every year. It should have been 6 this year, man. It should have been both Luke Kuechly and Adam Vinatieri. But Vinatieri was a beast. Yeah, the GOAT. All right. Drew Brees has to get in. He will. He'll get in. Yeah, I mean, Drew Brees is first ballot. If Drew Brees isn't first ballot, then the whole thing needs to be reevaluated. But, guys, that will wrap up the Super Bowl preview stream. We discussed everything from both sides, and we have the prediction of 28-24 Chiefs over Birds. It's going to be a good game. We will be live immediately after the game. Somebody asked, is Julian Edelman a Hall of Famer? No. Julian Edelman, no, he's not a Hall of Famer. I can't believe the season is almost over. I can't either. I said this, that I want to see where you guys stand on this, by the way. The start of the postseason legitimately seems like a lifetime ago. Like the Chargers-Texans wild card round seems forever ago. The Vikings-Rams game seems forever ago. Packers-Eagles, I mean, you could have told me that happened 5 years ago. It just legitimately seems forever ago. But this postseason, I feel like the postseason took forever. The regular season seemed to have flew by, but the postseason just seemed to like take forever. But Skull from Philly, what's up, Kenny? Appreciate it. TYFYS, thank you, Kenny. And that'll wrap it up. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. And Kenny, if you are listening, this one's for you. This will be the last thing that we say for the stream today. So Kenny, if you are listening, go Birds. Love you guys.